This is a Scrapper Stash card making session, and I'm going to be doing something a little bit differently today. So these are the two that I've pulled from my scraps. I know they look really boring, but we're going to do something to this that will make it a little bit more exciting. So I'm going to bring in my distressed oxides. Here's all my distressed oxides. So I'm using mustard seed, raspberry, spice marmalade, see this, preserves, and chipped sapphire. So those are the ones that I'm going to be using today. The other thing I'm going to be using is our new thin cut. It's actually going away very soon, guys. It's a Sunburst. So you only have a couple more weeks to get this. Right now I think it's on back order, so if you can't order it at the moment, wait until it's supposed to come in on the 22nd. I think it's what I saw. So, sorry about my head being in the way. I have to pull my chair a little bit closer. Okay, so I have my stencil pack already laid out, and I've only taped two sides, and this is my non-stick mat, which is really what you're going to want if you're doing distress oxides. Okay, so I have this, and it's about a 6x6, 5.5 by 5.5. I think it's closer to 6x6, but I'm going to position this so that I get quite a few flowers on here, at least 3, and a little bit of the 4th. Okay, so that to me looks pretty good. I might squish it over just a little bit more. The other thing, so I also have previously cut out one of these, and this I'm just going to use as a template, but I kind of want one of these flowers in the sunburst, so I want to make sure that we can cut that out of there so that it's radiating out from the sunburst. So I'm just gonna put that on there as a template, and I'll be using this template later as well. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm gonna tape this down, and I am going to actually use tape. I'm not going to really care so much about the edges over here, because that template showed me that I'm only going to be using about this much room. So I'm going to tape this down so it doesn't move on me and walk on me while I'm doing my distressed oxides. Okay. And I do have my chamois. I actually wipe the distress oxides off my stencil with my chamois and off my fingers. And then I just wash it afterwards. I'm going to start with mustard seed and picked raspberry. So I have those two in my blenders right now. And I'm actually going to sit down, so I'm not going to see you guys pop on if you do. Just because it's easier for me to do this as I'm sitting. And I'm just going to be just kind of sporadic with where I'm going with these. And I'm going to hold my stencil down as I work. Now that I have that in there underneath, let's just tape the other sides of my stencil so I don't have to be super concerned about it. Sorry, bumped you guys. And this one. Okay, so now it shouldn't move too much. And maybe a little bit in the center here. Okay, so there's that. That's the picked raspberry. I'm going to go on to the mustard seed. Now this is where I'm going to get a little bit more orangey, but I'm going to pull some orange in with the spice marmalade too. But this is actually one of my favorite colors. I love this color. This mustard seed is just so pretty, so vibrant. And again, I'm just being very sporadic. we'll see how it turns out. If you want, you could do like a ombre effect all the way down. Okay, so I'm going to pull these off. And what I do is I peel them back and then grab the actual Velcro with my fingers because they get so sticky and then they come off of your pads. The Velcro comes off the pads, so you gotta be careful about that. I know it comes with a lot of them, but I don't like replacing things unless I absolutely need to. Okay, so I'm gonna pick up grape. I call it grape. Seedless preserves and marmalade. Marmalade first. Get some of this orangey. Now it doesn't matter on here, so I went over the tape. Really, this side of this paper doesn't really matter, but I can use it for other projects. So I'm just gonna pretend like it matters for right now. Get something in between these two raspberries. And a little bit on this. These to me remind me of dahlias. So there's that. I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to use grape. I'm just going to bring in some purple. Again, very sporadic. I just want some deeper, richer colors in here. So it's not all bright colors. Okay, and then I'm going to take this one off. I'm going to use Chip Sapphire. And this is going to be my really rich, deep color. I think it'll give it a little bit more of a balance. I'm just going to fill in gaps. That's all I'm doing. And blending it in as I go. So now I can start seeing greens show up. A little bit in here. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. So there's my distress oxides. Now I'm going to peel this off and I'm going to zap it with some heat. That's easy to peel off because it's the non-stick mat. This is the all-purpose mat. It's non-stick. I take these guys and put them away. And I just have a bin off to the side where I keep all my stuff. Okay, so I have all my tape off here. I'll clean this here in a minute. So I'm going to lay it so that I know that which side is up, because distress oxides do, they stain. So just be aware of that. And I'm going to set it on my stencil case. The stencil's coming. Okay, now this is still taped down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my heat gun really fast and I'm going to zap this just so that it sets the color. And you don't need a whole lot. It's not like I'm embossing where I actually have to watch something activate. Okay, so I'm going to just peel this tape off of here, get it off my mat. One of the best things about the mat, two best things: heat resistant, stick resistant. It's great. So if you're looking for a mat that, and if I tear the paper, it's not a big deal because really I'm not using this portion anyway. I'm going to give this a quick wipe down on my work surface so I don't get it too much on my hands or on the back of my card. Okay, so there's this. I'm going to go ahead and bring in my, it's pretty rare that I do this, to do some die cutting, but I am going to bring in my die cutting machine. Now I have a Spellbinders. I would love the Close to My Heart one, but I don't have it yet, and I bought this right before I became a consultant, and so I just can't quite justify it yet. These ones this has served me well over the last couple of years, so I'm going to just move some stuff so that you guys can actually see what I'm doing. Okay. So I'm going to put my plates down. Now all of these are different. What I'm going to be using is the Sunburst. If you haven't seen this, really, you should really think about getting it. It is a fun toy, that's for sure. Okay, so I'm just going to put the magnetic board aside and take my Dahlias, my Distress Oxide, and I'm going to put this circle on top of that. I'm going to sandwich it in. Now if it moves, it moves. As long as it stays within the boundary of my paper, then I'm okay. And this is exactly an A2 size card. So it's a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I'm going to go back through, just because I don't have enough room with my tripod. Okay. Now, I'm going to leave this one on here, and I'll show you why. Because I'm doing all the same pattern, it's going to be a lot easier and less like with a puzzle. Now, if I had, 3 or 4 of these different colors and different patterns, and especially when you get into pattern paper, where you have where you cut one way and one the other way with front and back, then it can be quite tricky. So I'm going to set this aside for right now. I'm going to grab my trimmer. I'm going to trim this down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Okay. So that's perfect. And will fit perfectly on the card. Okay, I'm going to just work on this and then we'll adhere it onto the card here in a little bit. Now, this is my template, and I said I was going to be using this again. I'm just going to put a little bit of Tombow in here, and I'm going to center it on the card, or on the black. So I'm going to be doing this a bit differently. You can use these actually not as a template, but actually on the card. You can just stick them in, or you can use them like I'm using it with the template. Okay, so I'm going to be peeling this off here in a little bit because I like the thought of the black background. And over here, I'm just gently peeling these off so that they stay where they need to be. Okay, and now I have an outline that I can use even with some just bold cardstock, regular cardstock. Okay, so now I don't even need to number these because they're one-sided. And I know exactly where they go because my template is there, my template's here. If I weren't using a template, I was actually doing like several numbers, I would actually have them numbered. It's just easier to keep track of what you got going on. And I'm just going to adhere all of these in this little template that I have going. This makes for a really fun card. At least I hope it does. And I could keep that sun looking effect, right, with the yellow in there, but I think the black is going to look really stunning against the white and the Distress Oxides. So you let me know if you like the yellow better, or if you like the black better. Okay, almost there, guys. And really, this was a pretty quick and simple card. Really didn't take a lot of effort, that's for sure. So if you're looking for something really quick and easy, this was definitely one. Very colorful, very cheerful, I think. The other thing that we have is, they're called Spot On Sentiments, and it's a stamp set, and I'll show you that here in a minute, but they go in the middle here. And I'll show you a trick that I use for those. Two more. Okay, so that's what it would look like if the yellow were still on it, which is quite pretty, but I think the black is going to be quite stunning. So I'm just going to peel this off, and I just put a tiny bit of Tombow back here so I can take my rub and remove and take that off, but I really do like the black. Now, the sentiments. Let me find my stamp set, excuse me. So here's the Spot On Sentiments. So you have Thanks a Ton, You and Me, Shine Bright, Let's Party, Missing You, Hang in There Just Because, I Love You, and Sending Sunshine. You can tell that I've used this one quite a bit because you can't even read it. Now these are solid background stamps. And I do often like to use a double mat on these. But I think I'm just going to use a single mat. They do turn out really nicely. And I think it's because they're so small. So, what you saw me pull out was this little circle. Now, where these circles came from, I cut a whole bunch all at once. And how I did that was I used our circle windows, and they're like perfect size for these Spot On Sentiments. So it's going to just sit right in there. Now, with it being a solid background, I'm going to have to choose a color, right? So, I think I'm going to do Thanks a Ton. And cool thing is that you don't have to worry about which way you put it, because we're going to put it on the card afterwards, but I do have to choose a color. And I could use like Sundance because I have some oranges. I could do Nectarine. Could even do Smoothie or Raspberry. Let's see, I could use Sapphire. I could do Grape. It even looks like there's like New England Ivy showing up between the Sapphire and the Marmalade, huh? So that would be interesting. So I'm just trying to pull colors out that I know are in this card. But I want it to be fun and bright as well. I don't want it, because I have such a dark background, I still want it to be fairly bright and fun. So I think I'm going to choose Raspberry. Simple choice, right? We use picked Raspberry for Distress Oxide. Choose Raspberry for this. Now if I don't like it, I don't have to put it on my card, right? And these are super easy to find and see because they're perfect circles, and that's, you have a solid color, so it's super easy to find your circle. So there's Thanks a Ton. That's what it would look like. I think that's pretty good. Now I could have done a second generation on that. Could also be used Toffee. It would have been a little bit more mute. maybe not as loud, and that would be fine too. Let me know what color you would have chosen. Okay, so I'm going to take my, of course, my 3D foam tape from the shaker card. And I'm going to put it on the back of this circle. This way I have a little bit of dimension. Now the other thing I could have done was I could always cut up leaves and put it on here. And I could make this card either this way, actually I kind of like that. So I'm going to leave it like that. So it's going to be a horizontal card like this. You could have done it this way. You could do it any which way, right? But I'm going to do it this way. I quite like it. Okay, so here's my card base. And I'm just going to stick this on there. And because it's the perfect size for an A2 card, just going to line it up at the bottom. Flip it over. And now I have my card, my Sunburst card. So give me a thumbs up if you like this video. I will see you on Saturday for a Scrap Your Stash scrapbook. Hopefully I'll make it this Saturday. Sorry about last Saturday. A little bit of chaos going on here last weekend. So we will see you on Saturday. You have a good one. Bye.